China and Iran appear to be outmaneuvering Trump in tandem, as Beijing makes its first warlike move around Taiwan. With the US Navy tied down in the Strait of Hormuz, China is quietly inching its forces closer to Taiwan. Taipei's most exposed outpost is now clearly in Beijing's sights, as Xi's Coast Guard moves in and pointedly declares Chinese jurisdiction. Analysts are asking whether Taiwan's remote Pratas Island could be the first domino to fall in any future Chinese invasion, given how vulnerable and isolated it is. Taiwan's Coast Guard is now detailing a tense and frankly scary standoff with a Chinese Coast Guard ship just outside Pratas Island. She seems to be taking full advantage of the moment, probing Taiwan's weak spots just as Trump pauses a $14 billion arms package. A Chinese Coast Guard ship was involved in a tense standoff with Taiwanese vessels, bringing rival ships from both sides face-to-face near disputed waters. According to Taiwan's Coast Guard, the Chinese vessel only left waters near the Pratas Islands after an extended round of verbal sparring over the radio. Taiwan says it first spotted the Chinese ship heading directly towards the Pratas on May 23, triggering immediate concern in Taipei. Taipei then dispatched one of its own Coast Guard ships to the area, broadcasting warnings over loudspeaker and radio for the Chinese vessel to leave, according to reports. The two sides soon became locked in a heated argument over sovereignty via radio, each insisting the waters around the islands belonged to them. China's crew stated over the radio that they were on a routine mission and that Beijing has jurisdiction over the Pratas, language that Taiwan found especially provocative. Taiwanese officials later said China's choice of words on jurisdiction, as well as the length of time the ship lingered near the islands, were both unusual and worrying. The Chinese ship eventually turned away and began sailing out of the area in the late afternoon on May 24, easing immediate tensions but not the underlying fears. Separately, Taiwan's Coast Guard says it also drove away a Chinese research vessel for the second time this month, underscoring how frequent such encounters have become. On May 24, Taiwan's security chief revealed that around 100 Chinese ships were operating inside the so-called First Island Chain, a belt of sea stretching along East Asia's front line. The First Island Chain is a strategic arc that runs from Japan, through Taiwan and down to the Philippines, seen by Beijing and Washington as a key military boundary. The Pratas Island itself lies roughly between southern Taiwan and Hong Kong, making it a small but important outpost in contested waters. Because Pratas is about 400 kilometers from Taiwan's main island, it is relatively isolated and considered highly vulnerable to a sudden Chinese move. Adding to those concerns, Pratas is only lightly defended by Taiwan's Coast Guard, rather than by heavy military forces, making it a tempting target in a crisis. This latest escalation comes as tensions between China and Taiwan soar in the wake of Donald Trump's visit to Beijing and his decision to pause a major arms sale to Taipei. The Taiwan issue emerged as a major point in talks that were otherwise dominated by the conflict involving Iran and the wider Middle East crisis. During their closed-door discussions, Xi warned Trump that US support for Taiwan, if pushed too far, could lead to clashes and conflicts between Washington and Beijing. He reportedly went further, saying that if the Taiwan issue was mishandled, the United States and China could come into conflict, leaving little doubt about where China's red lines lie. Subsequently, the official White House readout on the summit appeared to skip any mention of Taiwan, adding to the sense that the topic was too sensitive to spell out publicly. Trump also seemed to dodge a question on Taiwan during his choreographed visit to the Temple of Heaven with Xi, reinforcing the impression that he did not want to publicly provoke Beijing on camera.
Did you talk about Taiwan?
Great place, great, incredible. China's beautiful.
At the same time, Taiwan declared that it would maintain close ties with the United States following Xi's threat, signaling that Taipei has no intention of backing away from its key security partner. Xi Jinping, for his part, said that US-China ties were the most important in the world and insisted we must never mess it up, underlining the paradox of a relationship that is vital yet constantly strained over Taiwan. The United States has formally paused a $14 billion arms sale to Taiwan, even as tensions with China continue to soar in the Taiwan Strait and beyond. The update was delivered by the US Navy's acting secretary, Hung Kao, during a Senate hearing on May 21, putting the decision on the public record. Cao explained that the pause was intended to conserve munitions for America's ongoing war on Iran, arguing that US forces must be fully equipped for current operations. Hung Cao said, and I quote, "Right now, we're doing a pause in order to make sure we have the munitions we need for Epic Fury, which we have plenty. But we're just making sure we have everything, but then the foreign military sales will continue when the administration deems necessary." End quote. Cao also stated that the decision to move forward with the Taiwan sale would ultimately be made by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. A senior analyst warned that the pause will likely exacerbate anxiety in Taiwan, where leaders already question how reliable US backing will be in a crisis. The same analyst argued it will make it harder for Taipei to ask its own legislature for additional defense budget in future, because lawmakers will point to stalled US deliveries. Meanwhile, Taiwanese Premier Cho Jung-tai told reporters that Taipei will continue to pursue arms purchases, insisting Taiwan has no choice but to keep strengthening its defenses. Trump confirmed that he discussed the proposed arms sale with Xi Jinping during their talks in Beijing, indicating that Taiwan featured directly in his negotiations with China's leader. After that meeting, Trump publicly stated that he may or may not approve the package, leaving the fate of the deal deliberately ambiguous. The US president was also expected to speak with his Taiwanese counterpart about the sale, a conversation that could shape Taipei's expectations and strategy. If it eventually goes ahead, the $14 billion weapons package would be the largest single arms transfer to Taiwan in US history. The US Congress approved the package back in January 2026, but under American law the sale still requires a final sign-off from the president to move forward. Previously, in December 2025, Trump had approved an $11 billion arms package for Taiwan, underscoring how dramatic a shift this latest pause appears to be. China has deployed the Liaoning carrier group into the Western Pacific for extended live-fire naval exercises far from the mainland coastline. According to the People's Liberation Army Navy, the drills included tactical flight operations, live-fire events, and search and rescue missions conducted in open waters. Chinese military analyst Zhang Junshi said the exercises would improve realistic combat capabilities, according to Defense Security Asia. Zhang added that the drills also served as a strong deterrent against what Beijing describes as Taiwan independence forces in the region. The carrier deployment is believed to be operating near the Philippine Sea and waters east of the Bashi Channel. Chinese officials stated that the exercises are not directed at any specific country and are being conducted in accordance with international law. The Liaoning entered service in 2012 as the PLA Navy's first fully operational aircraft carrier platform. It uses a ski-jump-style flight deck configuration designed to support operations involving Shenyang J-15 fighter jets. The strike group includes guided missile destroyers, frigates, and embarked J-15 carrier fighters operating alongside the carrier. The deployment also includes rotary wing aviation units and long-range support operations to sustain missions at extended distances. Military analysts say the Liaoning is helping the PLA Navy develop a more integrated carrier strike group doctrine for future operations. Experts say Chinese operations east of Taiwan are intended to expand PLA Navy access to wider Pacific maritime routes. Military planners reportedly view waters east of Taiwan as strategically important in the event of any future regional conflict. China's growing naval presence is also increasing the complexity of defensive planning for Taiwan and its regional partners. The deployment is placing additional pressure on maritime routes frequently used by US and Japanese naval forces operating in the Pacific. Analysts say China is gradually normalizing military operations around Taiwan through repeated aircraft carrier deployments and patrol missions. The live-fire element of the drills is also viewed as a shift toward more realistic preparation for high-intensity combat scenarios. Japan has increased monitoring of PLA Navy movements near Okinawa and the Ryukyu Islands. Analysts warn that increasing military activity in crowded Pacific waters raises the possibility of miscalculation or unintended incidents. China's expanding aircraft carrier operations are increasingly viewed as a challenge to long-standing US-led naval dominance in the region. The latest deployment is also seen as part of China's transition from a coastal defense force into a broader global naval power. PLA Navy carrier groups are now operating farther from mainland logistical support than at any previous point in their development. Analysts say China's long-term objective is to build a navy capable of sustained operations across the wider Pacific theater. The exercises come amid heightened diplomatic activity in China, contributing to renewed concerns over tensions surrounding Taiwan.